If everything
I
matters, nothing
suppose.
matters.
Right.
If nothing
The
matters,
mics are
everything
hot.
matters. Yeah,
What if the mics were hot the whole time? Oh, they already are.
they
They're called
are.
our phones.
Yeah. Or God. God is listening. It's Kent. It's me. God.
If you think you're paranoid, well, that's going on your record. Hey, let's start the show. How about that?
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
That's right. It's week 4, waiver wire, the audible, Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, and quarterbacks is where we begin, Bloom. And, well, Adam Hutchinson has our injury report, Monday injury rounds. Check it out at footballguys.com. And we're still wondering about Anthony Richardson, but hell, with the way Gardner Minshew played, you can wait. You can get as healthy as you possibly can. But your upgrade, downgrade waiver wire list, this guy deserves his own conversation because it's time to start thinking about Kyler Murray. Number 1 on your list, about 12 to 25%.
Yeah, I think it is time. He put on his TikTok, cease soon. He'll be back soon, right?
Okay.
We PUP, so technically he can return in week 5. He's not going to return in week 5. He's not going to return probably even in week 6. But this Cardinals team actually looks pretty good. Drew Petzing, first-time offensive coordinator from the Stefanski tree. This offense looks functional. And the test was the Cowboys. And I know they lost Trevon Diggs, but the Cardinals and Joshua Dobbs passed the test. And sees Bob Henry, the esteemed Bob Henry, the esteemed Jason Wood. This is like football guys royalty.
Top of the line.
We were having a conversation on base camp, and I think it was Woodrow who brought up that the fact that the Cardinals are playing well makes it more likely that Murray's going to return, and earlier than later. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is all good. And lest we forget, for fantasy football, Kyler Murray, if you like Justin Fields, before there was Justin Fields, there was Kyler Murray. The idea being a quarterback who could be better as a passer, although Murray sometimes very productive as a passer, but always productive as a runner. And yes, he'll be coming back from an ACL tear and maybe won't be as mobile or as aggressive as a runner. But I think that when you look at Joe Burrow, what's he going to be for us? Justin Fields, what's he going to be for us? Coming to a segment later on the show, not going to say which one.
Oh,
when you look at even Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Lawrence had trouble with the Texans, huh? I mean, the Jags are going to be okay, but you took Trevor Lawrence thinking he's going to take the next step the way Justin Herbert kind of did last week or looked like he did. So you might need a quarterback if you drafted one of these guys. So I think Kyler Murray, depending on your roster size, it's time. And I put him at 12 to 25%, which to me indicates that, I mean, he did put it out there. He did get back on everyone's minds with the TikTok message. And so I think you should bid a little aggressively. He can be a season changer. He can be a league winner, even if this Cardinals offense, it looks as good as it did against a very tough Cowboys defense. Now sees what happens when you add the Murray element. It's kind of exciting.
Right. Yeah, it is. I was going to say now with more Kyler Murray. Okay. Yeah. Well, that would be kind of cool. Before we get to the other quarterbacks, special shout out to Jimmy today. It's his birthday.
Hey,
See?
that's awesome.
Yeah, great energy to you. Many blessings. Our friend Jimmy in the chat room. Chat room is fired up about your upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report, which includes CJ Stroud with or without the shoulder, whatever, 5 to 10%. There is Russell Wilson. Don't get me started on Vance Joseph. 5 to 10%. I don't want to derail the show. Trust me, there is a large conversation. But as your offense looks better, as Marvin Mims, do we even have to say that? Like, yes, use Marvin Mims more. They will use Marvin Mims more. That makes Russell Wilson look better. So Stroud, Wilson, they're your next tier of QBs.
Yeah, these guys are, well, at least until last week, Stroud was blessed with a poor defense. For fantasy, we want that poor defense that puts quarterbacks in a more aggressive passing game script. Stroud was getting that, and then Stroud had a good game even when his defense was playing well, and his special teams were playing well too. So what's there with Stroud? Sore arm, whatever. Stroud looks good, and he's going to face your first place Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, tied for first place. That still counts, right? That's a good matchup for Pat. Even Jimmy Garoppolo had a pretty solid game through the air against them with Devontae Adams' help. Russell Wilson. Now, he is definitely blessed with a bad defense. Cecil, I saw Sean Payton said, no one's going to be fired, Cecil, Lammey, yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, isn't it funny to see let me tell you, Cecil, down here in New Orleans, oh boy, not surprisingly, people are loving watching the Sean Payton comedy, the farce. They love it. They are soaking it up. Anyway, Russell Wilson, like you said, more Marvin Mims, the deep ball, that connection, this team having to play from behind, or otherwise putting Russell Wilson in situations where, kind of like the end of the year last year, more fantasy quarterback production sometimes, if the quarterback is at least competent and he is surrounded by some good receivers, can just be that simple. This week against Chicago, it should be that simple. So not just these guys. So, depending on where you're at quarterback, if you have Joe Burrow, if you have Justin Fields, and you're thinking, I'm not sure who my quarterback's going to be, then maybe you go a little bit higher. We'll see. And Justin Fields also has a concussion potentially. I don't know if that's
a fieldsless Bears. The Broncos defense Vance Joseph might actually be able to put together a good game plan.
Nathan Peterman, I think it would be the quarterback. Let's get some more Tyson Bagent. Anyway, so I think that these quarterbacks, they're not necessarily going to be saviors, but if you're looking for an answer, just they absolutely could persist with this production that isn't necessarily, in Wilson's case, matching his level of play. With Stroud's case, it may hint at a great level of play. So that's your cavalry coming at quarterback this week. Murray could be that guy later, but not yet.
Okay, your 1%ers, people wondering, why haven't we talked about Jameis Winston yet? Yeah, well, here it comes now. Kenny Pickett might be out there, 1%er. Jameis Winston, super flex, 2 QB leagues. And Andy Dalton, they're 1% as well. Like, offense ran pretty good with Dalton.
Right.
Still love Bryce Young, but Dalton came in and things didn't fall apart. And nobody should be surprised by that.
No, tons of volume. So Kenny Pickett, finally a decent game, or at least a decent throw to Calvin Austin. That created a lot of production in and of itself. And again, going against the Houston Texans defense that we thought was vulnerable. Don't tell
Matt Canada probably didn't know they could do that. He was like, whoa.
Yeah. It's really that bad. Sometimes we exaggerate for effect to draw attention to certain things, but with Matt Canada, it really is that bad. It's almost like fatigue of just how many times are we going to say it? It really is that bad. But Kenny Pickett, at least against the Raiders, maybe against the Texans, can do that if you need a spot start. Jameis Winston looked kind of timid as a passer. And maybe some of that's Dennis Allen and the mentality of the team. Going up against this old Bucs team, I mean, we're not going to see Carr for at least a week. I don't know how much longer it's going to be. It could be longer than we think, because the first report was, well, it's not a season-ending injury. I guess maybe they were fearing a broken clavicle or something like that. But against Tampa, it's a solid matchup for Winston. Because of the time frame, the limited time frame in 2-quarterback superflex, you probably don't want to break the bank for him. Andy Dalton might give you one more start. Although, hey, Bryce Young, I mean, not exactly the most durable. And that was one of the concerns, one of the reasons that, well, he didn't fall. He was number 1, but maybe in a different era, Cease, he would not have gotten number 1, or maybe even in the top 10 because of how small he is. And why? Because of durability. Here we are already. Andy Dalton, Frank Reich, lots of passing against Seattle, probably lots of passing against Minnesota this week. If Dalton gets the start again, that could also affect some of your decisions on Carolina pass catchers, who we will talk about when we get to wide receiver.
Yes, and just a little bit, Darth Samwise talking about my shirt. That was our topic of conversation before the show, Bloom.
Yeah.
Before our mics
Earth,
were
Wind,
hot.
and Fire.
Yeah, I bet you have Earth, Wind, and Fire shirt, right?
I don't have an Earth, Wind, and Fire shirt.
Colorado's own, right? They're from Colorado.
I think Chicago, Colorado. Also, I saw them on the 21st of September, which is the date that they just picked out of the air for that song.
Yeah.
I actually saw them on, and they're fantastic. Really, they're very underrated, and they're one of the bands. You're gonna love this. I feel like they take the ancient and the future, and they put them together in their whole getup. The whole
that's why it's timeless,
right? Kind of like P-Funk, I mean, there's a bigger message there.
Yes, there is, and this is a Thoth the Atlantean shirt with his emerald tablet right there. So there you go. Let's move off. Hot Thoth talk this morning. Thoth, whatever.
Yeah.
And running back Gus Edwards. You know who could use some magic? It's the Baltimore Ravens and their backfield, because they've got some bad stuff going on with another running back that's banged up. It's Melvin Gordon time, or maybe not. Again, Monday injury report, Monday injury rounds. Adam Hutchison has that for us at footballguys.com. So check that out. But number one at the top of the list, because Vance Joseph doesn't deserve to have a job in the NFL, Devin A-Chain, Devon A-Chain.
Any job? Ticket taker?
No, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. But like, why he's not fired again? I'm not going to derail the show. It's perplexing. Oh, what would people say if the Broncos fired a coach after? They'd say, good. You had 70 points dropped on your head. Okay. Anyway, but A-Chain, they unleashed him finally, and it was glorious. Too bad they don't play the Broncos every week.
Right. Cease. Let's derail the show. I don't know if you saw. Have you ever seen that Twitter feed, Art But Make It Sports? It's really brilliant.
No.
It's one of the most brilliant things. Whoever it is out there that's doing it, they take scenes like from sports and they match it up to art. There's been so many brilliant ones over the years. I've reposted a few. I had to repost the one. It was from one of the A-Chain runs, I think, when the Broncos were just littering the field. The Broncos defenders, all the missed tackles, and they lined it up with a Hieronymus Bosch painting, 15th century, called The Last Judgment. It's like with all the demons tormenting the souls, Perfect. I really thought it was going to be the Vance Joseph Last Judgment. And it's funny also hear Sean Payton saying, you learned stuff about people during that. What about yourself? What did you learn about yourself, Sean? What do you learn about yourself in a loss like that? What you learn about Devin A-Chan? He says A-Chan now, not A-Chain.
I like A-Chain better.
I didn't go 50+% simply because you're not going to play the Broncos every week. Jeff Wilson's going to get healthier. Salvin Ahmed's going to get healthier. It could definitely be there for A-Chain to stay this productive. Not this productive. I'm sorry. Stay in your lineup productive with this running game and this offense taking on new dimensions. But it's still going to be a split backfield. He still came into the year banged up. So I'm not saying empty everything, although I certainly wouldn't talk you out of it if you wanted to. And I got to revisit, Cease, we talked about this after the draft. And at least in this game, it came to pass, where the exciting thing about a player like A-Chan in this offense is just how much open space it creates. And it's still creating open space. I saw the Mike McDaniel ball boy. You got beat by a ball boy. He used to be a ball boy. And it's really something to behold. I think that we really need to take a step back, Cease, and breathe this in, because we talked about it when Mike McDaniel was hired, that this could be, in some ways, important for the future of how the NFL head coaching profession was going to go. Because, we had the whole Sean McVay thing, right? But what was one of the things people said about the Sean McVay Rolodex hiring binge? Is that, look, I'm just commenting on something that's right there on the surface. Everyone kind of looked the same, right? They all kind of looked the same. They all had the same life story, kind of, former college quarterbacks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Mike McDaniel was different, very different. And
I'll correct you. It's a Mike Shanahan tree. It's not a McVay tree.
Sure.
Everyone's like, it's McVay. Like, no, those are all Mike Shanahan disciples.
It could. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. I think that we're looking at Mike Shanahan on the level of somebody like Bill Walsh or whoever. It's like somebody that just changed football.
And he was a Walsh disciple, right?
Right. Exactly. You trace it back, right? The ancestors, right? They're always with us, right? Cease. The ancestors are always with us. And I just think that Mike McDaniel, I just think we need to take a step back and breathe this in, that he's changing football. I mean, he's one of those figures, and an unlikely figure, such an unlikely figure when you think about the culture in the NFL, the culture of NFL head coaches. And it really opens up a lot of exciting possibilities for different ideas and a different way of attacking this open-ended game that we see. And I think for fantasy football, we're seeing definitely change the rules there too.
Yeah, he's changing the game, everybody. You want to change your game? Well, there's some running backs help in the 10 to 20% range, include Zach Charbonnet, Roschon Johnson, who gets the Broncos this week. Now, again, might be without Fields, so maybe, just maybe, that Broncos defense. Jerick McKinnon there, 10 to 20% as well, Bloom. So let's talk about this trio of backs that might be out there that can help you right now.
Right. Very different backs, right? With Charbonnet, he looked good in week 3. Kenneth Walker looked fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, did he embarrass. Speaking of embarrassing, he embarrassed some defenders in that game. Seahawks running game is getting on track even without their starting tackles. And Charbonnet now is a pretty exciting potential league winner if Walker goes down, and he's not exactly known for his durability. You have Johnson just inching up in snap share, like 39 to 42 to 45. It's not like Khalil Herbert looks bad out there, but Johnson just offers a little more physicality in the running game. Johnson offers pass blocking. If there's a back that we're going to want to play for the Bears, then Johnson is going to be that guy. Maybe we're just not going to have a Bears back that we care about. The other thing in the background here, and we can talk a little bit more about this when we get to Justin Fields, is the Bears did exactly this last year, right? They stumbled out of the gate. They got in their own way on offense, but they did eventually clear the way for Justin Fields and this offense to change. It became a viable offense, became a decent offense as far as scoring. So these are all things you're thinking about if Roschon Johnson is out there and you're weighing whether to pick him up. If you lost Nick Chubb, I mean, you're looking for the upside stash. This is one along the same lines, not quite as high ceiling as Zach Charbonnet if Walker goes down, but he doesn't need an injury. Johnson doesn't need an injury to realize his potential value, and neither does Jerick McKinnon. McKinnon, a different flavor, might have been dropped. We talked about this before the season. We said someone's going to draft McKinnon, and they're going to drop him a couple of weeks in when they barely use him. And they barely are still using him like a third of the time. He'll be on the field. But last week you saw 2 touchdowns. So he can touch the ball 3, 4, 5 times and be a good running back play. So that alone is a reminder enough that he should be on someone's roster. And this week against Kansas City, against the Jets, Kansas City, this is the kind of game that could be a good game for McKinnon again. So I think that McKinnon is not going to be a league winner, except that he was last year in December. But he's not going to be someone that has sustained value. But at the same time, he reminded us that he should not be out there. So some middle priorities here, guys who have a chance to change your season, but maybe aren't situated to do that right now.
Yeah, let's keep going through the running back position. And yeah, here we go. 5 to 10%er and some 3 to 5%ers as well. And Bloom, if you want to throw in the last 2, that's fine too.
Sure,
but Rico
sure.
Dowdle, 5 to 10%. Elijah Mitchell, 5 to 10%. Cam Akers, 3 to 5% as we're waiting. Ezekiel Elliott back on the list at 3 to 5% as well. And there's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And yes, there is including Melvin Gordon down at the bottom.
Yeah. Dowdle, you saw Deuce Vaughn get no snaps, no touches. And Dowdle looked good on his touches. So it really does appear that if Tony Pollard goes down, Dowdle's the guy we're going to want. He could continue to get a larger role. Red zone problems for the Cowboys. I'll just jump right to Ezekiel Elliott since he comes up here.
Yeah.
Funny to see the Cowboys beat saying they need Ezekiel Elliott. They missed Ezekiel Elliott. Could Dowdle get a chance to beat Elliott at the goal line? So there's potential value there too, in addition to the injury upside. Elijah Mitchell, we finally saw it was a Thursday night game, so maybe it was just we don't want to overwork Christian McCaffrey, but you saw Mitchell get 3 catches, 11 carries. He's still the clear backup. He's healthy for now, but still, it's the San Francisco 49ers backup. Whoever that is, that's someone we care about. So if he was dropped because early on he wasn't getting much, you might want to rectify that. Cam Akers, Alexander Masson looked good, kinda. He had a drop in the red zone. He had a fumble. It was a good strip. Gilman had a tremendous game for the Chargers.
Why does it take getting another back? I think I said it on the recap
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Why does it take that to get that out of Madison?
Yeah.
Should have been doing that the whole time, man.
Right? Well, they did have a somewhat tough start to the season as far as run defenses against Tampa and Philadelphia. But Akers still has a chance. But I think Madison did enough that Akers is just kind of simmering on the back burner, and we're waiting to see if this running game in Madison regress. So, at the beginning of the week, before Madison's big game, we might have said Akers 5 to 10% or 10 to 20%. But now I think that that's a steeper hill for him to climb. Elliott actually outperformed Ramondre Stevenson. And you saw them get 19 carries for Stevenson, 16 for Elliott. Again, the reminder, Elliott's so good at the goal line. Stevenson got the rushing touchdown so far this year, but that's not a sure thing. So Elliott, not just a little bit of Stevenson injury upside, but maybe some standalone value in a good matchup. Is Dallas a good matchup? I mean, I don't think so, although Arizona might differ there. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, some of it was garbage time, not his touchdown. And it's Kansas City. Kansas City has a good enough backfield that we were lavishing all this praise on Miami, 2-4 touchdown backs. That'll never happen again. Okay. That'll never happen again. But hey, Kansas City had 3 running backs that were solid plays last week. All flex running back 2 level plays, but Pacheco, Edwards-Helaire, McKinnon, they were all solid plays. Kansas City did that. Well, Chicago helped. Chicago always helps. And then Melvin Gordon might get a start here with Gus Edwards' concussion last week. Going up against Cleveland, though, Cleveland's one of those defensive seats I think we have to start treating them as a limiting factor whenever we're projecting. So you don't really want to play Melvin Gordon. That's why he's 1%er. You might get a start out of him, a flex play, but does Schwartz with the Browns.
May the Schwartz be with you. And P90 Camper has my heart.
Yeah.
And I won't derail the show, but you want more success, you're going to use the kids. That's Marvin Mims, and that's Jaleel McLaughlin. So he's not on the Chuck D portion of the program. I can't even say it till we get to the spot. But anyway, so yeah, let's get running backs. Yeah, we're done with running backs. Let's get to the wide receiver report. Monday injury rounds. Adam Hutchison, footballguys.com. Make sure to check it out. And I just feel bad for Big Mike Williams. I feel so terrible. Yeah. And everything that he can be and all these sorts of things. Like, we're going to get to that. And we're going to get to his replacement, the one anyway, because the kid's not ready, Quentin Johnston. That's in a little bit. But let's talk about Tank Dell and just Tank Dell himself, because then we got a nice cluster of receivers. But if you want help and someone that they've said, we're going to use, well, did you listen? Apparently not enough fantasy GMs have listened, Bloom, because Tank Dell should be on your damn team.
Yeah, and this is just wide netting it, always looking at the Yahoo 60%. And that's just what I'm doing. And I always want to help folks out there. So if there's anything better. By the way, you mentioned Mike Williams going out. I don't know if we mentioned Tampa Mike, another Mike Williams passing away in a construction accident. So, well, on that note, let's brighten things up with Tank Dell. A deep threat. And see, we could talk about Tutu Atwell too, but I think he was 61% in Yahoo League, so I'm not putting him in here, but he might be out there too. I wouldn't put him nearly as the priority that I would put Dell. Atwell would be more like a 10 to 20%er. But with Tank Dell, I think and it's not, again, I understand emptying your wallet for him if he's out there. It's short bench league. Because of that chemistry with Stroud, narrative matters. We'd heard that Stroud lobbied the team to take Tank Dell, rookie chemistry there. And remember, in week 1, Tank not used quite as much. And week 2, week 3, we're off. But it's Tank Dell as a deep threat. One long touchdown to ice the game, another one inside the 5. And we know he can be a jitterbug in the slot. We know he's dangerous with the ball in his hands. But I think with Atwell also, we have to consider. It's really funny too, by the way. Can I just take a moment to say the Rams never have first round picks, right? What do they do with their second round picks? They take these offensive players, Van Jefferson, Cam Akers, Gerald Everett. That's the first pick of the McVay regime. Tutu Atwell is going to be the one that hits out of all these second round picks. But what it means to me, Cecil, is these smaller receivers, these guys with measurements, 5'8", 170, God, Atwell's like under 170, right? They can matter in this NFL. And I think this intersects with Mike McDaniels, right? This intersects space. It's a different game. The game is changing, and we have to open up our minds to the size of receiver that can matter in fantasy football and matter in the NFL.
Yeah. How does your team get Marvin Mims if he's out there? 15 to 30%.
Yeah.
We've said enough. Joshua Palmer is the guy that takes over for Big Mike Williams. And then Quentin Johnston, not as much, a little bit further down. We'll talk about him later. But let's talk about Mims, Josh Palmer, and yes, Adam Thielen. If Andy Dalton's out there, then Thielen will be significant.
And Cecil, you can add in what you want to say about Mims as far as the priority. 15 to 30% to me, you're still counting on the Broncos to do something right for him to have sustained value. But Russell Wilson's strength is the deep ball. So maybe Mims should be 25 to 50%. Maybe he should be more. But certainly somebody that shouldn't be on the waiver wire after this week. Also, Adam Thielen, a little bit of a riddle here because nothing in week 1 really. Week 2 came on as a truly short-range target for Bryce Young and then did a little more in week 3. Looks spry, looks good with Andy Dalton. But if Bryce Young is back, what do we think of Thielen? You know, if Bryce Young was out for the year and this was an Andy Dalton team for the rest of the year, Thielen might be a 25 to 50, might be 50+% in PPR leagues because you see the die is cast for how this offense is going to work with Dalton. But if it's Bryce Young, are we as excited? So there's room for Thielen, if he was dropped early on, to be worth more. Palmer is definitely out there. I only have him as a 10 to 20% guy because Eckler's going to be back. Because why would you not throw to Keenan Allen? Why would you stop throwing to Keenan Allen? Not that Keenan Allen's durability is something we can count on for 17 games, but it's Allen and it's Eckler, which should be week 6. Eckler should be back. You also have Everett and Parham we'll talk about. Quentin Johnston we'll talk about. But Palmer is a skill player on the outside. In an offense, what makes you excited about Palmer and the real bull market case for Palmer is how many times did Justin Herbert throw last week? And is Kellen Moore really going to make that the offense? Now, when Eckler's back, it won't be quite that run heavy. But after a first week against Miami, like, wow, Kellen Moore is going to make this a run heavy offense, but it worked. So we can't really doubt it. Now it looks like a pass heavy offense, which could be a multiplier for all of the Chargers, like we saw last week when Palmer did catch a ball that should have been intercepted for a touchdown. Still, they all count in fantasy football.
Yeah, they all count. Mark wants to know when Mims will get more snaps. Elliot's saying the Broncos suck. Quit talking about them. Yeah, they do suck.
It's a Broncos
and that's why
show.
fantasy-wise, they could be significant. Now, here's the only thing holding Marvin Mims back is that his special team ability is so damn good, as you saw with the big return touchdown. So do they want to, if they give him more snaps offensively, which they should because he's their best receiver, does that take away from his special teams? You know, what's their decision there? Who would even be their other options? We'll continue to monitor that. Also, Brian. I never learned to read. Johnston, I like more, but the team likes Palmer more. And it's a results-based business. And again, windows. Your window for Quentin Johnston might be later, and it might be significant, but it's not right now. So week 4, waiver wire, it's Palmer. But long-term, I like Johnston a lot better. Let's get to that next section, Bloom. And let's just talk about everybody. Because Romeo Dobbs is there. Sure. Josh Downs is there. Michael Gallup is there. DJ Chark, again, back to the Dalton thing. There's Quentin Johnston, who I really appreciate his game. And Rondell Moore, Jaden Reed, they round out the report here at the wide receiver group. But yeah, it's, again, what do you want now? Do you need help now or do you need help later? And if you don't get Josh Palmer this week, oh man, I missed out on Joshua Palmer. Well, if you're fine at wide receiver and you've got the room and you want to wait on Quentin Johnston, that's my angle.
Yeah, I think you're right. As always, we're asking, what do you need? I think you're absolutely right also to talk about windows when it comes to a player like Johnston, or maybe some players we'll talk about that have a little more momentum, because doing this for so many years, Cease, I really have altered my mindset as I prepare this every week for everybody and get ready to do the show with you on Tuesday mornings to, it's best to have like 3-week blinders when you're making moves on the waiver wire. Like, what are you going to do for me for the next 3 weeks? Not what have you done for me lately? What are you going to do for me soon? And I think that absolutely should inform, depending on bench length. And you'll know whether you have a thin waiver wire or a fat waiver wire. Short benches, well, you can't afford to hold on to players like a Kyler Murray. Long bench, it makes it a lot easier to stash a Quentin Johnston away. So all these things should inform you. And then looking at your starting lineup this week, what do you need? If you need someone this week, maybe on a Thursday, Romeo Dobbs, looks like you've been saying, he's probably the favorite target for Jordan Love, especially in the red zone. What does this offense look like if it's low volume when Jones and Watson's back? Are they going to be back on Thursday? Maybe I'm underrating Dobbs here. Maybe I'm underrating Josh Downs. Josh Downs really, as a volume play, came alive with Gardner Minshew. But if Anthony Richardson's the quarterback, that's more of a Michael Pittman-centric pass offense, lower volume. That being said, if Downs can become the deep target, because that's what we haven't seen yet. We know Shane Steichen will allow his quarterback to take shots downfield. And boy, you want Richardson and his arm strength and his mobility taking those shots. If Downs is that guy, maybe I'm underrating Downs. You can do some interesting pickups. Michael Gallup. The Cardinals, again, man, it looks like Jonathan Gannon was a good hire after all. they basically took away CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb did fine. Did enough in the box score that he wasn't a bust. But I think you saw the NFL sees it's a conversation, right? The conversation with McCarthy and Schottenheimer's offense is, well, what are you going to do if we take away CeeDee Lamb? We're going to overcommit to CeeDee Lamb. What are you going to do? And it was a lot of Michael Gallup, who's a good player. And 2 years removed from ACL. Yes, Brandon Cooks is there, but I think we can see him. Cooks is a little banged up. Gallup is really interesting. Thought it was great as an aside, by the way, Cease. I don't remember who it was saying, the Cowboys are playing the Patriots this week. Zeke and Will Greer just got signed off of the practice squad by the Bengals.
Of course he did.
Right. And I can't remember who it was. I was saying Greer knows where some of the bones are buried, right? Like the hand signals. They're changing up their hand signals this week because, hey, it's the NFL and that's fair. All's fair, right? Next level priority, DJ Chark. Reeled in a deep ball. Jonathan Mingo left with a concussion. I'm still not convinced that anyone other than Thielen can have sustained value, but I love Chark's talent if this offense can come on. Terrace Marshall's still there too. Quentin Johnston, just not ready yet. Just not ready. The Chargers are showing us this. Just not ready. Maybe down the line he will be. And the report, I think, was Daniel Popper saying they're going to have to use him more as a downfield receiver. They wanted to bring him along slowly. Now, sometimes we see why they wanted to bring along slowly. But then sometimes we just see, hey, when the lights are on, it just starts to come together for these guys. So Johnston, Cecil, I could absolutely see a conversation, especially because they're playing the Raiders, where next week we're talking about Johnson as a 50+% pickup because he has like 3 catches for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that. But also he could have drops. He could look small at the point of attack like he did at times at TCU. We could say, you're going to wait. But it is a 3 wide receiver offense. He will be on the field 60, 70% of the time and have a chance to make his mark. Rondale Moore made his mark. Do you see that run? It was Evan Silva. I think Evan Silva. I might be wrong. It's always good to bring him up, though, saying that he'd be better as a running back in the NFL. Rondale Moore should be a running back. But I can see it, or like a Austin Eckler kind of player, right? And you saw it on the run. He looked like Purdue Rondale Moore running away from everybody. When he was that much faster, well, in the Big Ten, he was that much faster on an NFL field. And that's exciting. This team being better than expected. These guys have more interest. Jaden Reed could have had a bigger day. Remember, Jordan Love was off. Luke Musgrave could have had a bigger day. Jordan Love was off for a bit against the Saints. Got it together. It's hard to see all these pieces fit together, but it's a better Packers pass offense than we expected. And Jaden Reed looks ready to go out of the gate as a second rounder.
Chat room wants to know about your Chiefs wide receiver thoughts. Rashee Rice, Sky Moore,
Alfredo
also
Brown.
Williams. Jameson Williams was brought up.
Williams.
On the rake, yeah.
Yeah, look, with Williams, it's not as exciting as Kyler Murray. I understand going for Williams. I just think that all the indications, just like Johnston, but worse, much worse. The Lions were giving us indications that Williams isn't ready. They wanted him to get significant playing time in the preseason, not just to showcase their new important piece of their offense. I think because he needs more seasoning. So I'm not as excited, although it is the Lions pass offense, which is a pretty good thing. Although their offensive line is banged up right now. And the Kansas City Chiefs stepping on the rake, see, when you look across a wide receiver group, and this is with Kadarius Toney only playing 2 snaps, and nobody's getting more than 50, 60% of the snaps, right? And everybody has a role, right? Justin Watson has a role. Marcus Valdez-Scantling has a role. Rice and Toney and Moore can do some of the same things. There's some overlap there. Then you have Kelsey and Noah Gray who can add in, and you have the running backs. Now last week it was the running backs accounting for 4 touchdowns. Maybe next week Rice could get 1. Toney could get 1. Moore could get 1. Okay, flex plays, short of injuries weeding out 2 or 3 of these guys. I just don't know where we get to a situation where every week you're putting Rice in or putting Toney in or putting Moore in. So I'm probably staying away because that's one of those cases where you're expecting something to change without any impetus for it to change. Why would the Chiefs change this approach? Why would they do that? I don't see any reason to.
The only time it changes is when they get to the postseason.
Right.
Because they can do whatever they want to do. So expect them to change. Hey, you get to the postseason, they've been doing this. Now they're going to do something else, and you won't be able to stop it.
Can we just get Chiefs Dolphins in the playoffs? I hate to. It's only September, but can I put that wish out in the universe right now?
Yeah.
With a healthy Tua. Let me I'm going to make the wish very specific.
Tua. Damn. All right, let's move on from that and talk about the tight ends. Not a whole lot of help out there. Of course, there never really is. But Gerald Everett, they're 7 to 15%. Luke Musgrave, who we've been talking about in the chat room, like
Yeah.
if Love gets a little sharper, then that's good
Yeah.
news for Luke Musgrave. Jake Ferguson, Hendershot is there, 5 to 10%. Hey, there's Noah Fant, and hey, there's Donald Parham. So, yeah, there's a group of tight ends, various degrees, but nothing you're breaking the bank for.
Right, like you said, Cecil.
Sounds like tight end.
Yeah, you're churning, and just like every single year, we're like, there could be 8 or 9 possible answers at tight end. There's like 3 every year. It changes the why every day. Gerald Everett's interesting. Man, he looks stubborn and tough after the catch. You have some extra targets maybe to spread around. And the nice thing is he had, I think, 6 catches last week, and that was with Parham getting the 2 touchdowns. What happens if Everett gets some touchdowns? Maybe he should be a little higher. Certainly, I think out of this group, he's the priority over Musgrave, but Musgrave is interesting. Musgrave looks good. Wow. Musgrave could have easily had 100 yards and a touchdown last week. And again, the Packers offense, when you have Jones and Watson back, this target tree gets wider. Jordan Love, though, coming on, and this is a pretty efficient pass offense. Jake Ferguson fitting into that narrative of, well, if you're taking away CeeDee Lamb, if it's a copycat league and teams say, yeah, let's take away CeeDee Lamb, let's make this pass offense sort of uncomfortable and see who emerges. It could be Jake Ferguson, who had more work after the catch, looked better. Noah Fant. Without Will Dissly, actually, Parkinson's getting more snaps than Fant. Fant is a very athletic option. You saw him as fantasy relevant the last couple of weeks. Last week with help Dissly being out, but also this running game really carried the offense. So with that going on, still Fant was solid. I guess we could put Parkinson in here as a 1%er also, and then Parham with the 2 touchdowns. That's what he does. He's a skyscraper. He catches touchdowns, and likewise with Everett. So with Everett and Parham, you have a tight end 1 for fantasy split between 2 players, but injury, and Parham is probably the more likely one to get hurt based on history, or just the fluid nature of the roles. You could have a hit here on a pass-heavy Chargers team.
You have to go through your lineup every single week, and you have to make the decisions. And sometimes the decisions are emotional. Sometimes they're rash. Sometimes they're well thought out. But either way, you're making moves. It's hot. It's fantasy season, right? It's week 4. You got to get back on track. You got to stay on track wherever you're at with your fantasy team. There is one thing that all of us can agree on each and every week, is that you have to go over and you have to make these decisions. So sometimes when a player or a coach makes you really, really mad and really upset, you can get revenge on him. And it's scream therapy, basically. And I want to hear the stories. We're getting some stories like in the office, in the meeting, in the cubicle, boss looking at you funny, at the dog park, wherever you're at, wherever you listen to the Audible. 1, we appreciate you. 2, thank you. But 3, you can join in with us in the audience participation as we take off our hats and say it ever respectfully to the one and only man from Public Enemy. So scream it to the heavens with me. Everyone out there, say it. Cue the Chuck D. Blue, week 4, shut him downs.
I just love that we make time for Chuck D every week on this show. People need more Public Enemy in their lives. I ever tell you that one time I saw Public Enemy with S1W like in the 80s in St. Louis airport? Well, man, I can go back to that moment right now. You might not want to go back to the moment you drafted some of these guys, but it's time to let him go. Derek Carr, we're not waiting around to see how much longer it's going to take for him to get healthy. Desmond Ridder, we got the game script. We didn't get the production. So he needs, again, quick trigger finger on this stuff. Churn him out. Sam Howell, and what we're seeing with Sam Howell and Baker Mayfield is these are going to be matchup guys. So, Jordan Love coming through against the Saints shows us maybe he's not just a matchup guy. Russell Wilson and Stroud, again, the matchups might be good because they're going to be having to pass a lot in Wilson's case. So I think that we see with Sam Howell, he really shrinks against a good defense. Same thing with Baker Mayfield. Baker has the Saints this week. Sam Howell has the Eagles, who just made humbled Baker. So I think you're not waiting around, and it doesn't have to be for a quarterback. I'm fine with your backup quarterback is the waiver wire. Let's talk Justin Fields. Here we are. Well, no, we're not, because he's not coming on until the next segment.
That's right. Yes. And why is that?
Right.
If he plays this week, why is that?
Right. Moving on into drops. See the teasers. Samaje Perrine's not happening. Craig Reynolds, it was Jahmyr Gibbs backfield. Deuce Vaughn, again, Dowdle going ahead. Tony Jones was nice while it lasted. So here's a bunch of guys I think that, see, I'm looking over my percentages, right? Charbonnet, Johnson, and McKinnon are good examples, right? Or Murray. I was just in my head, like, would I drop these guys for Kyler Murray? Okay. In a typical league where you have the space to hold Murray. A.J. Dillon. Well, if you don't trust A.J. Dillon when Aaron Jones is out, why are you even rostering him? And he's showing us that he's not worth that. Even if Jones is out against the Lions, are you really going to play Dillon? And then Jones will be back soon. Antonio Gibson is still getting the snaps. The production's not there. Another fumble. Yes, if Brian Robinson gets hurt, then you'll be happy you have Antonio Gibson. But I'd rather have Zach Charbonnet. I'd rather have Roschon Johnson again. I'd rather have, and if I'm looking at quarterback and I'm rubbing two sticks together, I just want to hold Murray for ransom so that if someone else needs him, I've got him. Yeah, I'm dropping Antonio Gibson for that. Dropping Josh Kelly for that. Just see what we had to say about A.J. Dillon. Again, Eckler could be out this week against it's Vegas. But last week it was Minnesota. So Josh Kelly. Kendra Miller with Kamara back just didn't show enough for me last week to think of him as a priority hold. Gus Edwards, it's a rough business. Might just be 1 week with a concussion, but then is Justice Hill going to be back with the toe? And are they going to continue to have a three-headed backfield and a not that productive running game? So I don't consider Edwards an essential hold. Khalil Herbert, I don't consider an essential hold. If there's a Chicago back that's going to hit, I think it would be Johnson. Now, again, if Johnson goes down, well, probably see more Dante Foreman. Kareem Hunt is even lower than that. Kareem Hunt, I might cut if I need help for Russell Wilson or for CJ Stroud. It just didn't look like he had much. He looked like the guy last year. Oh, surprise. Kareem Hunt that we saw last year is the Kareem Hunt we're going to get this year. It's Jerome Ford's backfield. At wide receiver, I would just say this. I have Tank Dell on the wire. I have Achane on the wire, and I can only get them if I drop Jahan Dotson. That's the only player I can let go in a short bench. Yeah, probably. I still think Dotson, his time will come, but maybe not until Washington gets a stretch of some easier defenses. Rashid Shaheed, Josh Reynolds, this is that Kyler Murray line. We saw Khalif Raymond do some stuff. AJ Terrell did a good job taking Josh Reynolds away last week. We'll see AJ Terrell probably on old teammate Calvin Ridley this week. Then Jameson Williams. I just don't know if it'll be that clean, what Reynolds' value is going to be going forward. Likewise with Rashid Shaheed. With Winston, maybe you could be good with Winston and his deep ball, but I'm not holding on to Shaheed, the third receiver, to see. Now we get to some even lower priority guys. Rashad Bateman, what are you waiting for? Kadarius Toney. I feel like Kadarius Toney is the classic at this point. Shut him down. He's the classic cue the Chuck D guy where you just say, I don't want to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll come around. I don't want to deal with it on my roster. What do you think about Jackson Smith and Jigba? I know I said, and Mike Williams is a Viking funeral drop. I know I said, let's wait around on Smith and Jigba, but he's not looking good. His snap count's going down. He's not making an impact. They're throwing more to the tight ends. I just don't see this one coming together in the near term, and I don't think he's an essential hold. Any thoughts on Smith and Jigba?
Yeah, I look at it with rookie players. It's like, are they flashing for us? We get into the conversation with like a Luke Musgrave, Dalton Kincaid. Like we've seen it with Musgrave. We know it's there with Kincaid. We know it could be better with Kincaid. That's not happening yet. Yeah. So I don't want to sit around and be like, it's going to happen sometime. Like when it does, or we get signed, we get a play. Right. Then that's part of the conversation.
And we haven't got that yet from Smith and Jigba. It's tight end. Hunter Henry is in that same category as Dotson. I don't want to drop Hunter Henry, but if I have to get an Achane or a Dell, I will do that. You mentioned Kincaid. I think he's in that, I can pick up Kyler Murray, but the only player I have I can drop is Kincaid. Yeah, they're just going to keep using Dawson Knox. David Njoku, he's third in the pecking order on a mid-low volume passing team. It's just not happening. Cole Kmet, now there is that the Bears offense is going to come around. And when it happened last year in the second half, Kmet was a pretty solid fantasy tight end, the favorite of Fields in the red zone. But am I holding on to him with this iron grip? No. Zach Ertz even lower than that. I mean, you can only do so much with 5-yard targets in PPR leagues. This is a decent offense. They don't have to rely on that. Hayden Hurst just a drop with Adam Thielen emerging. And wow. And I and bear with me, folks, but I know this shut them down segment is longer this year, but I'm trying to give more specific advice, and I welcome more advice. We added a note we get a lot of stuff at customer service. Matt Carey, our customer, shout out to Matt Carey and the customer service team. He's awesome. I love Matt. And I know there might be some confusion about how to use the drop recommendations in conjunction with the pickup. So we added some explanatory text. Otherwise, always, folks, let us know how we can make this better for you, this show, this report to help you. I know one way that always makes me feel better, Cease. I was listening to my favorite show, Giles Peterson, BBC 6 Radio. There's a beautiful Tony Bennett, rest in peace, Tony Bennett. Beautiful rendition of You Must Believe in Spring, right? You Must Believe in Spring. Bill Evans on piano, Tony Bennett from about 20 years ago. So for these players, we're believing that there will be a springtime for them. We're going to hold on.
Yeah, that's right. Because sometimes you just can't let it go. And that means as you prepare for week 4, you're not going to shut them down, but instead you were going to hold on. And who are some of those week 4 hold-ons?
Yeah, let's talk about really just one player. This is the Justin Fields segment. And here's the thing, Cease. I often say where I feel I make the most foolish calls or when we bet on a trend to reverse. Okay. Betting on a trend to reverse rarely works out. But are we really betting on a trend to reverse if we say Justin Fields is going to come around? Because this exact same thing with the exact same coaches happened last year. And they did eventually figure it out. And see, so in a lot of ways, I think this is, how do you feel about Justin Fields? And we're peeking through keyholes. Okay. We're peeking through keyholes. But I do think, I really want to hear what you have to say about this specific point, because this is where we get to what we were talking about before the show. Many things we talk about. That's probably a better show than this show. And this is a good show. Is human nature. What do you believe about human nature? Mm-hmm. And it informs your fantasy football takes. I see a combative guy in Justin Fields. I see the chip on his shoulder. I see more like that energy, because Lamar Jackson's soft-spoken. Lamar Jackson's a pretty mild-mannered guy, like his manner as a person, but you see the smoldering fires behind his eyes. I see that in Justin Fields. I just don't see, like last week, whenever GJ Moore had to say, nah, you got to get off the field. Do you see that clip, Cease?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, we're going to find out if Justin Fields has a concussion, so he may or may not play this week against Denver. It is Denver, okay? So that can change things, period, if he can play. Or even just for this Bears team to get out of this maelstrom that they're in right now, okay? But I see it in Fields. I still think Fields has in him to be the author of his story. And his story is not going to be about Luke Getsy. His story is not going to be about Matt Eberflus, right? His story is not going to be about Ohio State, whatever so he's already had to deal with this, right? He's already had to deal with
Orlovsky stuff, when Orlovsky ran his mouth without checking with people.
Yes. So he's already had to deal with this. And I think, and I know that for fantasy football, we were doing a lot of Jalen Hurts comparisons. And I'm not saying, I think Jalen Hurts has he's always had, even back in college, like a poise about him. You know, like just the inner knowledge and inner confidence of like, yeah, I hear you. I'm getting back to work. Justin Fields isn't there yet, but I have hopes. And the other thing is just getting to facts is it's not just Denver. After that, it's Washington, it's Minnesota, and it's the Raiders. So that's how you build confidence, right? Mm-hmm. Facing those defenses. It's the opposite of Sam Howell and Baker Mayfield this week coming back to earth. We say, well, yeah, put him against a good defense. Well, what happens when we put Justin Fields against a middling to poor defense? And then hopefully that snowballs just like it did last year. But I think whether you're holding on to Justin Fields really does come down to what you think of him and how he will handle this adversity. And I think just the what you gain, and don't we want to bet on people to come through, right? Don't we want to bet on like affirmative good outcomes? We already saw what that can be worth. So no, I'm not dropping Justin Fields. And yeah, I'm putting some trade offers out for him in my leagues this week.
Yeah, because the narrative on him, and again, both of us being counterculture, everyone's dropping him. Everyone's talking about he's a bust and everyone's moving on. And I just go back to what teammates have told me about him. And I know that fire's there. And we've
It's
already
there.
seen it. It doesn't even, you don't have to talk to his teammates. All you got to do is watch. So, hell yeah, right there with you with Justin Fields. Like, if you can pick him up, because look at this week specifically, not to make it a Broncos show. Poor Ian or Owen. Is it Owen or Ian? Sorry, Ian. Owen. Um, but like these two teams are looking at it as a get right game. The both of them are trying to get right. But you've got Justin Fields, who's done this, who's battle tested, who's already had this inner narrative of having to prove people wrong. So I'll have to prove people wrong once again. Could be a great story.
Yeah, I want to buy into that story. Fantasy football is about stories, and I think that this deserved this time. And next Wednesday, not next Wednesday, tomorrow, Wednesday, John Daigle is going to be on the couch, and we're going to talk about these. There are players. See, I think in a fantasy football season, I'll end on this note. In a fantasy football season, there are moments that, and we talk about this in our draft prep too. There are players that I can tell you this much: their value right now is not going to be their value in a month. Either in a month, everyone's going to really drop Justin Fields, like with prejudice, or in a month, Justin Fields is going to be someone that you were glad you held on to, like last year. There's a lot of players like that right now. Josh Jacobs comes to mind. They're players that either people are going to start giving up on them, or they are really going to matter for fantasy football. And you need to take stands where you feel, and it can be just a 55-45 thing, but when you feel a lean in one direction, take some action. That's what fantasy football is all about.
Yes, take that action like I just did trying to clean my camera. Francis says my camera's out
You're
of focus.
soft.
Everything's hazy in Colorado, Bloom. So I thought I looked fine.
Rocky Mountain High.
Only in Colorado. Anyway, that's a wrap for today's show. Do the YouTube things, please. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. And of course, we appreciate you so very, very much. He is Sigmund Bloom. Follow him at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show is at The Audible. Until next time, everybody, be safe, be kind, know that you're appreciated. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty.